Hello, welcome to Kimono Collages by Kane. I'm Kane. I've made these collages out of paper to sort of represent kimonos. We are at City Gallery in New Haven, Connecticut. It's an artist-based gallery. We are a collective. We've been here for more than 15 years. And it's my pleasure to welcome you now to come and see what I've made for my show. So this is Momi. It is named Momi because when they line kimonos, they line them often with red silk, and they call that Momi. It has nothing to do with the color red or the silk, but it's a red silk product. I made this using watercolor paper, standard size, and acrylic paints. Before I talk about how I made it, I really want to tell you about the installation. It's critical that these shadows are where they are. And the man who helped install this spent 2 days adjusting the lights and putting some kind of little things behind here so that the paper wouldn't curl, because if you leave it alone, the paper will curl. So when I made this, I was intending to have it all be one big piece and have it joined here at what I call the waist. But when we put it up, we hadn't joined it yet. We were just trying to get a feel for it, and the shadows came out. That was it. We decided we were in love not just with the piece, but the way the piece presents itself to the world. So when I painted this, I painted each piece individually. I used acrylic paints, and I used unconventional tools, mostly a squeegee. And I didn't load the squeegee, I loaded the paper, and I squeegeed through the paint, or I would print the edge of the squeegee. All these little lines came from stamping the squeegee down. I don't mix my colors ahead of time, I mix them on the paper. So if there's a red-brown mixture, it's because it was mixed there. I do that with most of my painting. But if we move on and we come over here, this is kasoti. A kasoti is a short-sleeved kimono. It normally is made out of cotton rather than silk. And when it's made out of cotton, it also has another name, and that's a kasata. They're worn in the summertime because silk is very hot. This kimono was made using watercolors. I used indigo and I used black, and occasionally you might see a little yellow in there, and a lot of water. I put water down on the paper, I dropped the paint into the water. When it got to a certain point, I would sprinkle it with salt to get these sunbursts. I dropped rubbing alcohol. And this color is very traditional in Japanese kimonos. They do a lot of shishobi printing, which is usually just using an indigo dye and a lot of folds, and they crease the whatever they're doing, if it's paper or silk or cotton, they fold it, they'll tie it, and then they'll dip the corners, similar to tie-dye. So that's what I was thinking when I made this piece. And because the sleeves are shorter, it gave me another jumping off spot. So all of these kimonos that are in this show are not exactly the same. Well, this one I call Spruce. And the reason I call it Spruce is because when I was painting it, I was thinking about my favorite ski trail, or one of my favorite ski trails, which is called Spruce. It's steep, it's gnarly, it can be full of moguls, and then I don't go. But when you stand at the top of that trail, before you go down and you look out at the sky and you look down at the snow and you look down at the shadows of the snow, this is what it feels like. Oh boy, I'm gonna go get there. This one was painted with a lot of spatter techniques. There's also, you can see the effects of the squeegee. The way I hold the squeegee makes different marks. If I rub the squeegee backwards, I sometimes get marks like this. Not always, but I have a kind of an idea of where I'm going. There's also the print marks at the edge of the squeegee, the rubber part. This was made with cobalt blue and white only. I just used different dilutions of the paint. And then when I came to put down what I like to have interpreted as the snow, I just spattered the paint right out of the jar, right out of the bottle. I just squeezed it, let it drip, 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 drip. So it felt to me like I was going to go down Spruce Trail and it was snowing and the sun was almost shining and it was just going to be the best day of my life. My daughter said to me, she also skis that trail, and that's what made me approach this idea, was she said, when you're in Vermont, the sky is so much prettier. The blues are bluer, and if the sun's shining and you're going down the trail, it just feels so good. And so I said, well, I'm going to make that feeling into a kimono. So this really doesn't have any reference to an actual kimono other than the form. So this one I call shogun. A shogun is a samurai. The samurais, the way they dress, there's sort of a code that they follow. This one actually has an obi, and the male kimonos are usually quite short, and often they're black. They don't normally have a lot of color. So that's why I chose to do the black and white. And this is the end of the actual kimono, and this is the dress that they wear underneath. The obi part was the most exciting part to paint. I put the blue paint down and the black paint down, and I had a full page. And what I was going for was to have the kimono made out of this, which would be more of a traditional male kimono. And when I put the squeegee down into the paint, it was much wetter than I normally have, and it sort of made this marbleized pattern. And that excited me, but not enough to make a whole garment out of it. I thought that it wouldn't be as active. So I ended up, I put it on the wall, and then I started with these bolder pieces. I shortened the arm, and they often wear these very long sleeves, so I was just trying to make that interpretation. And I liked the way that the simplicity of just sort of the feathered effect, what the squeegee did for me. I don't think I used any brushes on this piece at all. I just used, again, the squeegee to print. Make sure the squeegee goes through the seams so that it has cohesiveness. I like the power of this piece. This piece really sounds to me, feels to me like a samurai, like I'm going to get you. And it also, it's in a whole different color family, so it gave me some more variation. So again, you can see where I printed with the edge. I think that's my favorite thing to do, is to print with the edge and get these lines. And this guy has a collar. It's not really a collar. What it is there's a trim that goes around and down the sides. And when they wear a kimono, they push it back so that their nape, and there's a bone back here that's supposed to show. And so if you're looking at it from the back, the little trim piece will look like a collar, but it's not. And then we have the baby. And this one is called, and I have to look it up because I want to make sure I say it right, Agashan, which means baby. So we decided this was the baby bear and that was the papa bear when we were hanging the show. And this one is not on paper. This is on what's called an ampersand aqua board. It's a board that they put some kind of a treatment, it's like a gesso. But because this is designed for water media, so the surface is like cold press watercolor paper. So it takes the paint in an entirely different way than if I did it on a gesso board. And I make thousands of these squares. I've been doing them for years. A lot of them, this little one especially, I kind of work out my ideas. I experiment with whatever line I'm going to get, whatever mark I'm going to get. This is to represent the back of an obi, the way they tie it. And originally this show was going to be all of these black and white panels. But I I guess I had an epiphany, because I couldn't figure out how to get these panels up on the wall so I could construct a big collage out of these panels. And that's how I ended up with the paper, because the paper went up on the wall with a couple of thumbtacks. I could move it around. I still wasn't planning on doing a kimono. I put up 3 pieces, and I was trying to orient them to each other, and I stepped back and I said, oh, there's the arm, there's the body, there's the blouse in the middle. I think I'm going to make a kimono. And then I was off and running. So I think I'm having such a ball with this that I'm going to probably make some more. I'll have to figure out what my next show is going to look like, but that's not even important now. What's important now is to enjoy making the work, and I certainly have. So, thank you for watching this. I appreciate you taking the time. I hope you enjoyed looking at it as much as I enjoyed painting it.